Hello everyone, I am Dr. Vivek Kumar. In this lecture series on finite element methods, we have discussed direct method, variational approach and various forms of the weighted residual methods to obtain the finite element solution of 1D mechanical engineering problems. In this video, we will be obtaining the finite element solution of a planar truss subjected to certain loads. So how we are going to obtain the finite element solution? First, we will be discretizing the entire truss structure into a specific number of the element, or you can say the members. So after that, we are going to obtain the elemental equation for each member or for each element of the trusses. How we are going to obtain the elemental equations? We are going to use one of the method, that is the direct method, or we can use the variational approach or the weighted residual approach. In this case, we will be using the a direct method to obtain the elemental equations for each and every member of the trusses. Then we will be compiling all these elemental equation into global system of equation by performing the assembly procedure. And the simultaneous solution of all these algebraic equation will give the nodal displacement at each and every node of the truss member. And from the information of these nodal displacement, we can easily determine the stress and strain in each and every member of the trusses. So such type of the structures, that is the truss structures in a three-dimensional space, are generally defined by using the two-coordinate system. For the FEM analysis, we will be using two-coordinate system. One coordinate system is known as the global coordinate system, which is common to all the members of the this truss structure, and another is the local coordinate system. The local coordinate system will be specific to each element or each member in the truss. One of the member of the truss is shown over here, which will be connecting ith and the jth node. So when we are considering only this member, it will be corresponding to a 2 degree of freedom system, that it will be having the displacement at the ith point as q1 and displacement at the j point as q2. So we have already described the elemental equation and the elemental stiffness matrix for such members as AE by L, where E is the Young's modulus, A is the area of the element, and L is the length of the element. And this matrix will determine the contribution from the different component, that is KII, KIJ, KJI, and KJJ, depending upon how these nodes are numbered specific to a particular element. Now in three-dimensional space, each and every node will be having 3 degree of the freedom. So this node will be having these 3 degree of the freedom: q3i minus 2, q3i minus 1, q3i. q3i minus 2 means in three-dimensional space it will be representing the x direction, 3 minus 1 will be representing the y direction, and 3i will be representing the z direction specific to the ith node. So these are the displacement of the ith node in the three directions. Similarly, at the jth node, we will be having q3j minus 2, q3j minus I, and q3j. These are the deformation of the this node along the x, y, and z direction. So we are obtaining the deformation with respect to the global coordinate system as these values, and the deformation of this element with respect to the local coordinate system as q1 and q2. These two type of the deformation can be met with respect to each other by using the direction cosine. So here q1 and q2 are the deformation specific to the element with respect to the local coordinate system, and these are the deformation of the ith and the jth node with respect to the global coordinate system. So multiplication of these two so the multiplication of these two matrix will give the value of the q1 and q2 in the local coordinate system. So this is known as the mapping matrix. So the mapping matrix has been arranged such that the direction cosine of the ith point will be multiplied with only to the global deformation of the ith point. Similarly, how this has been achieved by reducing these terms as 0. So this, by reducing this term 0, the contribution of the jth element will be reduced to 0 for the deformation at the first node or the ith node. Similarly, we can define the second row with first three elements as 0 and second and the last three elements as Lij, Mij and Nij. So these Lij, Mij and Nij will represent the direction cosine of this element. How we are going to obtain the direction cosine? So xj minus xi, this will represent the length of this element along the x direction divided by the length of the direction divided by the length of the entire element. We will be getting the direction cosine along the x direction. Similarly, we will be obtaining the yj minus yi, that is the length of the element along the y direction divided by the length of the beam or length of the member. So this will give the direction cosine along the y direction. And finally, the direction cosine along the z direction will be obtained as zj minus zi divided by the length of the beam. So these expressions will map the local deformation with the global deformation of the element. Now we will again be using the same mapping matrix or the lambda matrix for converting the this local stiffness coefficient matrix into the global stiffness coefficient matrix of a particular element. So as you can see here that we are having 6 degrees of the freedom. We are having 6 degrees of freedom for this particular element in 3D space. So the stiffness matrix for this element will be 6 by 6 matrix. That is, the K matrix for this particular element will be a 6 row and 6 column matrix. How to get the stiffness matrix? We will be explaining how to get the global stiffness matrix from the local stiffness matrix. Again, we will be using this mapping matrix. So the global stiffness matrix for a particular element can be obtained by multiplying first with the transpose of the mapping matrix with the local stiffness matrix and then again multiplying it with the mapping matrix. After performing this matrix multiplication operations, we will be obtaining the global stiffness matrix as a 6 by 6 matrix. Now we will be using this concept. So this will be the stiffness matrix of an element in a 3D space. In a 2D space, we will be having only two direction cosine, that is only the L and M. So we will be eliminating, to convert this stiffness matrix into two-dimensional space, we will be eliminating all the rows and the columns which are involving the use of the direction cosine along the z direction, or that is all the rows and the columns which are having the contribution from the Nij. So we are going to eliminate this row and then we are going to eliminate this row and this row, and similarly we are going for the these columns, and similarly we will be going for a different rows. So this is the truss we are going to solve, and it is a 2D or you can say the planar truss. Here we are having 1, 2, 3 and 4 elements. The elements are marked in the boxes and the nodes are marked in the circle. So we are having 1, 2, 3 and 4 nodes and the 4 element. So this table will depict the number of the element, the cross section area of each of the element, then the length of the different element and the Young's modulus. Again, here we are having displacement as it is a case of the 2D problem. So each node will be having the displacement along the x direction and y direction. A total of 4 number of the nodes are there. So our displacement or the primary field variable will be having the 8 degree of the freedom or having the 8 displacement. Q1 and Q2 will correspond to the displacement of the first node. Q1 will be along the x direction and Q2 will be along the y direction. Similarly, Q2 will be having contribution from the second element will contribute to the Q3 and Q4 second node, and the third node will contribute to the Q5, Q6, and the fourth node will be contributing Q7, Q and 8. Similarly, the load vector can be established as force acting on the first node in the x direction, y direction, on the second node along the x direction, y direction, and so on. The primary objective here is to obtain the global system of the equation in the form of KQ is equal to P, that is stiffness matrix into displacement matrix will be equal to the load vector. Now we will isolate each and every element of the truss structure. So the first element is formed by connecting first and second node. Second element is formed by connecting second and the third element is formed by connecting third node and the fourth node, and finally fourth node is obtained by connecting these two nodes. So we will number the number of the element, local node number corresponding to each element, their x coordinate, y coordinate for the first node and for the second node, and finally we will be obtaining the direction cosine Lij and Mij for a particular element in the truss structure. Now we will establish the stiffness matrix for the first element. First element is obtained by connecting node 1 and node 3. So we will be using the direction cosines for Lij and Mij for the first and 3 node. So we will be using the expression already developed for the stiffness matrix, global stiffness matrix. So just we will be filling the values of the Lij and Mij corresponding to the first element. So from here we will be obtaining the stiffness matrix. So it will be having the contribution. So as we can see here, so the first element is obtained by connecting the first and third node. So first and third node, in the first and third node we will be having the displacement as Q1 and Q2, and in the third node we will be having the displacement as Q5 and Q6. So we will be dealing with the degree of the freedom related to Q1, Q2 and Q5 and Q6. So accordingly we will be naming the stiffness coefficient K11, K12, K15 and K16, and similarly K11, K21, K51, K61, and the rest of the terms will be filled as shown here. That is for this second column, 2 will remain the same, and as we go downside we will be covering each degree of the freedom 1, 2, 5 and 6. Similarly for the third column, the fifth element will be there and we will be filling 1, 2, 5 and 6. Similarly for the last column we will be having the 6 number constant and we will be filling 1, 2, 5 and 6. So this is how we will be getting the stiffness matrix for the first element. So the second element is formed by connecting second and third node, and in the second and third node we are having degree of freedom as Q3, Q4 and Q5 and Q6. So accordingly we will be obtaining the stiffness matrix. So for the this second element we will be using the direction cosine, that is Lij and Mj, and we will be numbering the coefficient matrix as K33, K34, K35 and K36, means I will be varying from 3 to 6, 3, 4, 5, 6, and also the J will be varying from 3 to 6. So we will be developing this type of the coefficient matrix. Now with the third element is obtained by connecting this third and the fourth node, and the degree of freedom associated with the third node is 5, 6, and with the fourth node it is 7 and 8. So we will be getting Q5, Q6, Q7 and Q8. We will now be filling the values of the direction cosine that is LMN for the third element of the truss, and we will be defining this matrix in terms of the coefficient as K55, K56, K57, K58, and along the rows we will be changing the values of 5, 6, 7, 8, and simultaneously we will be filling the entire matrix. And finally, the fourth element. The fourth element is obtained by connecting the second and the fourth node. For the second node, we have degree of freedom as Q3 and Q4, and for the fourth node, we are having degree of freedom as 7 and 8. So based on the value of area of the cross section of the this element length, we will be getting these values, and these values will be obtained by using the values of the direction cosine for the fourth element, and this we will be filling as per the degree of the freedom. So I will be varying as 3, 4, 7, 8, and also J will be varying as 3, 4, 7, 8. So for all the four elements we have established the stiffness matrix. Now we will be performing the assembly operation. So the global stiffness matrix, we are having 8 degree of the freedom, so it will corresponding to the 8 number of the rows and 8 number of the columns. So the elements will be defined as K11 up to K18 in the first row. In the second row we will start with the 21 up to K28, and so on we will be filling the entire stiffness matrix. Now the objective over here is to equate or add the value to the different terms of the matrix. So for that we will be using individually, we will be filling by using the matrices present into the first element. So here we will be filling K1, K12, K15, K16, and so on. All these values we will be filling into the global matrix. And similarly, once the filling of the first stiffness matrix of the first element is completed, we will be going for the second, third, and fourth. So after adding all the stiffness coefficient in the global stiffness matrix, we will be getting some terms which will not be having any contribution from any of the element. We will be reducing these values to 0. So this will be the shape of the final stiffness matrix obtained after getting the contribution from all the four elements. So now we will be describing the problem or the finite element solution of the truss as stiffness matrix into displacement matrix is equal to the external load. Now we will be applying the boundary condition. It has been given in the problem that the first node and the second node is fixed, and at the fourth node a vertical downward force of 100 Newton is applied. So based on these given conditions, we can say that Q1, Q2, Q3 and Q4, all these values are equal to 0, and also P8 means the force at the fourth node in the vertical direction will be represented P8, and it will be equal to minus 1000. So we will be changing our displacement matrix with first four terms as 0, and now next four terms will be associated with the deformation at the third and the fourth node, that is Q5, Q6 and Q7, 8. These are the unknowns which needs to be determined. Now also the value of the reaction at the first and the second node which are fixed are also unknown. So this will also contribute towards the unknown coefficient or unknown values. We can, as the external force on the third node along the x, and there is no external force on the third node along the x and y direction, so it will be we will be having Q5 and Q6 will be equal to 0. Also P7 will represent the external force on the fourth node along the x direction. It is also not present in the system, so we will be substituting P5, P6, P7 values as 0. So this will be the final shape of this load vector. So after simultaneously solving these 8 equations, we will be obtaining the displacement at the third node as q5 and q6 along the x and y direction, and at the fourth element we will be getting q7 and q2, q8 displacement along the x and y direction. In order to reduce the number of the steps in the calculation, we can eliminate the first 4 rows and first 4 columns of the global system of the equation, because in the first 4 rows will correspond to the q1, q2, q3 and q4, as the displacement is already there, already is equal to 0. So we can directly eliminate these rows and columns which are associated with this degree of the freedom. Still we are getting 4 simultaneous 4 algebraic equations which can be solved for q5, q6, q7 and q8. Let us now summarize this lecture series on the finite element method. We have started with a basic understanding about different types of the element using in finite element modeling. We have discussed 1D element, 2D element and 3D element. Then we have developed interpolation model for 1D element to approximate primary field variables. We have approximated the primary field variable as linear and quadratic approximations. Then we have applied direct method to obtain elemental equation representing mechanical engineering problems such as fluid flow, structural analysis, and a system of springs connected in series and parallel and subjected to axial load. Later on we have learned variational approach and weighted residual approach to solve displacement problem associated with deflection of beams. And lastly, we have applied finite element method and assembly procedure to solve nodal displacement in planar truss subjected to a transverse load. With this, I close this session on the finite element method. If you have any doubt about these video lectures or finite element method, feel free to write in the comment section, or you can directly talk to me on phone. Thank you for listening to these lecture series.